You tell everybody.
My name is Fia.
How old are you?
3.
What are you going to make today?
Pizza!
With who?
Daddy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So, today I'm making pizza with Daddy. So, we're live. So, if you see us, do it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes, all right.
Let's go.
Let's go. Hello guys, welcome to session 3. Today we're going to be doing a redo of what we did last time, but this time utilizing making dough in the TM6 and also showing examples of the five steps there.
Who looks two Thermomixes?
Okay, we're not selling Thermomixes, we're making pizza.
Yeah, just telling everyone who looks two Thermomixes.
Okay, good job. So last time we, like I said, we covered the same sort of principles, essentially mixing everything by hand. But yeah, so today we're going to be making the basic pizza dough recipe from the Cookadoo recipes. But what we're going to do is instead of making it as you normally would, we're going to be applying these principles and we're going to see what the differences will become after applying these different techniques. So just to cover again what the tips are for next level dough is basically number 1 is it's a formula, not a recipe. Number 2 is the mixing order and the method, the way that you mix. Number 3 is stretch, fold, rest, repeat. Number 4 is the fermentation times and stages. And number 5 is the 3 Ps, which is patience, persistence, and planning. So we're going to go through these step by step, go into more detail, and see what you guys think and see how it turns out. All right.
I found a pizza.
All right, let's make a pizza. So we'll get our ingredients out for the basic pizza dough recipe, which is our flour, which is 400 grams. We've got our salt, which the original recipe states for 1 teaspoon. I've actually upped that to 2 teaspoons. We've got our yeast, our sugar. The original recipe has 2 teaspoons of yeast. I've taken that down to 1 teaspoon of yeast, and the sugar remains the same at 1 teaspoon. And we've also got our olive oil.
Yeah, that's my favorite pizza.
The original recipe calls for 30 grams of olive oil. I've taken that down to 20 grams. Our water. The original recipe is 220 grams of water. I've taken that up to 260 grams of water. So I'm just going to break that down and explain why I've changed that and the reasons behind that so you can understand what effects they're going to have. So the original recipe is essentially 55% hydration. It's a more of a drier dough, so it's very easy to handle, very easy to work, but you're not going to have the same rise and the same texture and fluffiness with a lower hydration dough. So that's why I've upped the water. So taking it to 260 grams is making it 65% hydration, which I find in my experience is still very workable, but it just gives it that extra amount of elasticity and the way it feels, as well as when it puffs up and rises in the oven. The other thing is the oil. I've taken that down. Adding olive oil into your dough increases elasticity, which is good, but it also increases the how quickly it cooks. So the more olive oil you've got in there, it can tend to cook possibly too quick, especially cooking at high temperatures in the Ovana where we're cooking over 400. In a conventional oven, you need that because a conventional oven can't cook as high. So that's fine, but that's the reason why I've taken that down, because you don't want to be cooking it too quickly. The yeast, which is currently the original was 2 teaspoons. I've taken that down to 1 because I don't want it to ferment as quickly as what the original recipe states. So original recipe, I think it's ready in about an hour or so, 2 hours total. I'm wanting to extend that to try and aim for at least a full day of, say 8 hours of fermentation in total. So what I would like to do is a 6-hour bulk fermentation and then 2 hours at room temperature once divided into balls. And having that smaller amount of yeast can help let that get to that stage of drawing that process out. Don't touch the flour, darling. We're going to lose our quantities. Then the salt, I've also upped the salt because the salt, number one, is for flavour, but number two, it also acts as a regulator for your yeast activity and fermentation. So the more salt that you put in, the slower the fermentation process will take. So again, wanting to extend that further, having less salt means that it's going to ferment quicker. So adding a bit more gives it a little bit more saltiness and flavour, as well as taking that time back. So pretty much that's pretty much everything in a nutshell. Why I did that. We'll go through now and apply the step by step and the methods and the order of the way that I like to do things. And again, we'll see how that all turns out. So what we'll do, we'll start with our water first. So do you want to give me a hand to pour that water in?
Yeah.
So everything's already pre-weighed, so I'm just chucking it straight in there. So the first step is the water. So Sophia, if you want to, I'll pick you up and you tip that right in the hole there. Good job. All the way, all the water. Up, upside down, tip it upside down. Good girl. All right. So that's our water. And now what we're going to do is we will add our sugar and yeast to our water, and we're going to dissolve that. So you hold this, make sure you don't drop it. You tip it in here. Good job. Beautiful. Put this over the side. So we'll give that a mix. Don't worry, it won't be loud, it's okay. And we're going to do about 2.5 minutes, or roughly 2.5 minutes, at speed 2.5, just to mix that all around, to integrate that sugar, integrate that yeast, allow it to all dissolve in the water. And what that helps with is when we're adding our flour, it's all integrating with the flour evenly. There's no bits and clumps that are not mixed and not dissolved in the water. So that just helps integrate everything together. You'll probably find, again, just repeating from last week, everything adding slowly, allowing it time to absorb and combine, because that's the end result we're wanting, is everything to be mixed properly and no unmixed sections. So that's, just have a look at that.
Can I have a look?
Yeah. What do you think?
Ooh.
Oh, is it mixed yet? I reckon that should be okay. We can probably speed that up, I think. So that's that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get our flour ready. And we're going to go straight to the kneading function, and we're going to put that for, where is it? Here it is. We're going to put that on about, let's say, 4 minutes. And during that 4-minute process, we're slowly adding that flour. Ready to do it, yes. Okay, so we put that on. I'll hold this. I'll put you up to the table. Put your knees down. I'll hold this, and you slowly get the spoon, and you put it in spoon by spoon. Like this. You get the spoon? Good girl. So spoon by spoon, I'm putting this into the water. So as you can see, the reason why I've got it for 4 minutes is because this is going to take longer than normal, because we're wanting all that flour to integrate before it's ready for the next lot of dry flour to go in there, because we don't want any flour caking up around the sides. We don't want any lumps in there. And what I'm waiting for is waiting for the blades to spin. So there's always motion as I'm adding. That way there's no flour sitting stagnant on the top, which again can cause clumps inside the dough. And then while we're waiting for that, I sort of roughly mark out where my halfway mark is. Because what we're wanting to do is only add the first half of the flour. And then once that first half is added, then we can proceed to add the other ingredients. In particular, the salt. Yes. You push that in. Good girl. Good girl. You push that in. So the reason why we add the salt halfway through and not at the beginning is because I don't want that salt to make any contact with the yeast. Because as I mentioned before, the salt acts as a regulator for the yeast. But if you if the salt content is too high, or it comes into contact with the yeast, there's a high chance that it's actually going to kill the yeast and it's going to stop that fermentation process altogether. So we want to avoid that, and having half of our flour in there first gives a buffer for the yeast to not, basically there's a higher percentage of mass in there, and only a small portion of salt, so it's not going to be affecting as much. Okay, stop darling, we're going to get the salt now. So once this is all in here, yeah. Okay, you pour this in. So we're going to slowly put our salt in. Right. Put this stuff in here. And we're probably going to up that a bit higher to probably another two minutes. Stop darling, we'll put this in now. Okay, we'll get more now. And again, just slowly adding that flour. And then when we get to about 3/4 of the way, good girl, then we're going to slowly start to add the olive oil, because we're wanting that to sort of like lubricate everything, and then it will slowly. What, Tony? Good job. You get this stuff on the top here. What we might do is we'll just get a spatula just to clean the sides, just because we've got a little bit of excess on the sides. Alright, you hold that. We'll just pause that for 2 seconds. Push that in. Good job. And then we're going to scrape it down. Don't touch it down, there's blades in there. Okay, get a spatula, so I know that I'll get a dirty look if I use something metal in there. Just wait, please. So just scraping all the sides down. And these little thin spatulas, I use them for everything, they're the best. They get nice into the little tight spots, and they're not awkward to use, which is good. Okay, so that is that. We'll continue that now.
Can I put olive oil?
Yeah. So get a little bit more flour in there. And then we'll let you slowly pour that in, okay? Jump up here, hold it. Good girl, don't spill it, don't spill it, don't spill it, don't spill it. And gently pour it in, not all of it at once, a little bit, little bit. Good job. And then we get this one this hand. More flour. Wait for that. More olive oil. Don't touch. More olive oil. Flour, that's all the flour. Okay. Careful. Jump down, grab a look at what it's doing, what it looks like, how much time we've got left. So there's about a minute left of kneading, which should work out perfectly. Enough time just to pick up any of that loose flour that's in there and get that olive oil integrated with the rest of the dough. Then what we're going to do is see what it looks like next. So we'll get our surface ready. Okay, you can talk as well.
So,
Good girl, that's what the Thermomix does it? You're going to scrape out the Thermomix with the spatula. Yeah, okay, you want to use this and just scrape the bottom for me, please, on the table. Thank you, that's almost there. We've got 5 seconds left. Alright, good. Okay, that's done.
And now see.
So, what we'll do is chuck this straight over the top. We'll give it a little squirt of olive oil just to stop it from sticking. We don't want it to stick too much. Pat, pat. And we'll spin it around a little bit. And you can go, voila. Ready? Go. Ah, it didn't come out.
Oh, okay.
Alright, go again.
Voila!
Good job. Fantastic. It's very sticky. Okay, so you can see it's a lot stickier than what you're probably used to, those who have made this recipe
I
before.
have a bowl.
In a minute, darling. So we'll just scrape out all the rest. Don't touch, darling. It's very sticky. You're going to get dirty.
That's sticky.
Scrape out all the bottom, so that way it's all out. We've got all that dough. We don't want to waste any. Right, that will do. It's good enough.
Now I'm making a bowl.
Not just yet.
Can you make a bowl?
Just want to clean up our fingers a little bit. So one tip with very sticky dough, rest is very important, and the tip number 3, which is the stretch, fold, rest, and repeat method. The reason for that is that every time you do that and you're stretching it and you're folding it and you let it rest, when you're doing that, it's essentially relaxing and absorbing, and that gluten structure is developing. So right now it looks all sticky and shaggy. You do that a couple times, it's going to become tighter and tighter and tighter as that gluten structure develops, and all of that helps with the rise in air and everything to do with your dough when you're cooking it. So what I'm talking about is we want to get a spatula at this stage. Just try and make it into a bit more of a ball. In a second, darling, in a second. Just wait, you can do it. Let me do it first, you can do it second, okay? How about that? I'm going to show you what to do first. Okay. So we're going to go in from the sides with one, depending how big this is, but normally this size, just one finger each. Just wait, I'll show you first. Just wait. Straight underneath, lift it up, let your the weight of the dough stretch down, and then fold it over. But you've got to do it fast, or it's going to stick onto your fingers. Then go to the other side, same thing, lift it up, and fold it down. And we want to just keep continuing this until we're getting to a ball consistency. As you can see, I'm just flipping, stretching, folding, turning it over, and every time I'm closing the bottom. And that's important because we're locking in and basically sealing it into a bowl, so as it's rising, it's not coming out of the sides if it's not stuck together. When it's more hydrated, that's not so much of a concern. The drier or the less hydration you've got, the less stickier it is, so it doesn't really stick to itself. So just wanting to ensure that we're doing that. And then just rolling it around. And I'm dragging it to close that bottom. Yes, you can. Okay. So dragging it just to close the bottom. And that's pretty much where we want to get it to there. Now we're going to repeat this at least 3 times during the bulk fermentation process. So for a minimum of, okay, you go, drag it. Good job. And if we spin it around, you do it again. It's a little bit far away from you. Make it closer for you. Here you go. There you go. And this way. And this way. Good job. Okay, now it's perfect. Good job.
Now high five.
High five.
A high five.
Okay, high five the dough as well. Give it a slap. Good job. Okay. So after that, we will let it rest. A little bit of olive oil on the surface. Some Glad wrap. So you can do this in a bowl. I just prefer to do it on a bench, and the reason for that is because I'm doing this process. So if I was to do this on a in a bowl, I'd have to take it out of the bowl, put it onto a bench, stretch and fold it, put it back into the bowl again, and it's just making mess and too much process is happening. So bulk fermenting on top of a surface is much easier for me anyway because of this particular principle. So I just lift off the plastic, do a stretch and fold, let it sit for another half an hour, and then do it again. So typically with the first one I don't usually count because that's just forming it into a bowl. Half an hour from now is when I count the first one, and then obviously the second, third, however you want to do. So that is that.
Why did you put me on your
Okay. So we can leave that to do its thing. That's all sorted. Okay, leave that this. So yeah, just to reiterate what we've done here, which is obviously there's a few differences, but the principles behind it is that I'm not as you can see, I wasn't working from a recipe because I've changed all the ingredients. I'm not following the steps that are in that recipe. I'm just, please don't. I'm utilizing the formulas of the percentages of hydration, yeast amount, and salt amount, and also I'm utilizing the methods of what I'm doing. So slowly adding the flour, putting everything in the water first. So it's important to start with the water, in my experience, because you're adding all your water first, so you're locking in that hydration amount. So that way, as you're adding your flour, if you're finding it's too sticky, you can always add a bit more flour. But if you're not doing that and you're mixing everything at different times, you're constantly going back and forth, adding a bit of flour, adding a bit of water. So it just creates more guesswork. So at least you know 100% for the particular flour that you're using. If it's too sticky, then that flour can't handle that amount of hydration and you're needing to add more. And that's why it's important, coming down to number 5, which is in the planning stage of noting down changes you make and with the persistence as well of continuing to try different things and trying different methods, different quantities and ratios. Because that's how you experiment, that's how you learn, that's how you know what to do when it might be a warm day, for example, and if you're just following the same recipe over and over and over, and you've done it in the middle of winter and you've done it in summer, you're going to see that it's completely different because the temperature plays a huge factor. So once you understand the principles of how it all works, you then can adjust as you need to, even the humidity. So that's what it's all about, basically. So that's that. We'll leave it to do its thing. We're going to make a pizza now. So I've got some bowls ready to go in the proving bowls. So a couple of questions I saw pop up the last couple of weeks. So these are designed to do the second proof, which is when you divide up into bowls. This is called the bulk fermentation, where the dough is a whole. Once this is completed, then you divide it. Then you put it into these containers and you can continue to prove in these proving bowls. These have just been 2 hours at room temperature. Once you're divided, you can put this straight in the fridge and you can put it for a day, 2 days, whatever, depending on your flour. That's the good thing about them, is that you're not having to put all these in a box, and then if you want to put it in the fridge, you've got no room in the fridge. So that's just wanted to clarify that, because I saw a few people asking what stage you put that in. So that's done. We'll get you over here. Just clean this one up. So today the pizza that we are making is Claudia's suggestion, which is figs, prosciutto, blue cheese, and caramelized onions. So that sounded amazing, so I had to try that, and apologise, that's the reason for the delay this morning, because I didn't realise figs weren't in season, so I had to go to a couple of different places to try and find them, and in the end I had to settle for a fig paste. So unfortunately couldn't get figs anywhere, but I'm sure the flavour will still be there. It will still be just as nice. Okay, so we get our first one out. So spatula, a little bit of semolina around the outsides, and then using the spatula, just going down the sides just to separate it. We just don't want it to stick, because we want it to pop out nicely and maintain its shape. And we don't want to ruin everything it's been doing in this container. So that's all good. Turn it over, flop, comes out as easy as that. And then we're just going to give it a bit of a dust on top. And you're going to see that, again, anyone that's already made this, that makes all the time, I hope you can see the differences, and please let me know your experiences, if it looks completely different, if it looks better, if it looks worse, if it looks too hard. Love for your feedback, but yeah, really love to know the difference. So if you can see here, look how soft that is. It's really good. So a bit of semolina on there. Okay, we're going to just go in, push the center, form that crust. This is really soft. It's quite warm under here today, so that has definitely helped make that warmer. I don't even think I have to stretch it like normal, because it's so soft and fluffy. Okay, so I reckon that's going to be about right. So get my olive oil, and we'll check what our oven's doing actually. So I wanted to cook on the stone just over 410. That's a bit high. We'll let that cool down while we're making it. So a squirt of olive oil on the bottom. I'm just making this up as I go, so Claudia's probably thinking, don't do that, that's not what I do. But it's okay, you can tell me if what yours is like. And on the bottom, we're gonna go with a bit of fresh mozzarella. And I'm gonna be doing a video this week, hopefully, showing how I got this cheese like this, because this is the best thing that I've found in the last, I don't know how many years, but it makes everything so much quicker and you get this beautiful, consistent cheese, sizes and everything else. So bonus tips if anyone can work out what it is what I've done. Get a bit of blue cheese on the bottom as well. Not everyone is a fan of blue cheese. Some people think it's a bit overpowering. I find Gorgonzola is a little bit softer. It's not as intense, but I love blue cheese, so I'm going to load it up. Okay, that's that. And then what I'm going to do is get a bit of these caramelized onions. These were caramelized in the TM6 earlier before. Saves me standing at the stove. That and that should do that one for now. Peel. And we're going to get a little bit of semolina on the top, a little sprinkle, and we're going to go straight underneath. One shot, stretch it out. This is so soft. And we're going to go straight in the oven. You can't really see, but here we go. Beautiful, that's what we want. Go on the side, I can see it's puffing up, but it's heating up the peel just so it doesn't stick under the base. And turn it over. And you can see already how much puffier that is. I mean, I'm only going by my experience making the original to well, in my opinion, enhancing it. But I'm going to be doing a video showing a side-by-side comparison so you can see the differences on every stage basically, so how it cooks, how it ferments, how it rises. Just let it do its thing. Alright. And because there's not too much on there, it's going to cook relatively quickly. You don't want it to burn the cheese too much. The base is cooking quite nicely. And those high spots are going to cook rather quick, so we want to avoid having these too close to the flame. Okay, I reckon a little bit longer. The colour needs a bit more on the other side. Just about there. Okay, look at that. All that cheese bubbling and melting is fantastic. So we're going to bring it over here. We're going to go straight onto a cooling rack. That way we're maintaining all that crispiness we've just created, as I've mentioned before. So while that's slightly cooling down, I'm going to put the door back on the oven. That way we don't lose that temperature and it can start climbing back up again. And while we wait, we're going to put some prosciutto over the top. Some nice strips. Now the fig and walnut paste. Oh, sorry, I didn't have the camera showing. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so we're going to get 2 spoons. Just get this piece clean. What we're going to do is just do a dollop here. I've done it here. Here. Done it there. There we go. And the only thing it's missing is a little bit of green, but that's okay. And there you have it. Pretty much that's it. So I'm eager to try this because I love that flavor combination. Let's get our cutter. And now we're gonna see if we can see what it looks like on the inside. Let's give it a cut. Okay. Let's have a look and see what we got here. It's on the side. Bit of air in there, which is good. That side a little bit not, but that's just because the way it was pressed out. But as you can see, it looks pretty good. Even these ones too. Bit of air. So again, probably not as effective, unless you're seeing side by side to see the difference. But the most important thing is the taste and how it tastes. Now I know that you can't taste what I'm tasting, but definitely tastes good. So there you have it. I'm going to clean myself up a little bit, and we are going to get to any questions shortly. So just before we do, I'm just going to, this has been probably about, I don't know, how long we've gone for now? About 15, 20 minutes probably, 15 minutes. I'm just going to show you what it looks like after that 15-minute rest. Should be 30 minutes, but you get the idea anyway. So we'll take off that plastic. Olive oil that I sprayed on the top is to stop that from sticking, so that little bit there I must have missed, that's why I stuck to the plastic. So just give it a little bit of around the sides, and then again going in with 2 fingers up, let it sort of drop down. And you can see just how smooth and soft and relaxed this is. And I've got dirty hands, so that's I've got a bit of extra fresh pizza crust on there, but it's alright. It's all flavour. So just stretching it back, and you see I'm closing up the bottom here, that little seal, and then bring it back, closing it up, twisting, closing, and every time it's just getting it tighter and tighter. That way it's effectively one big dough ball. So that's going to puff up and continue. So I'll do that probably, because it's warm today, probably 3-4 times. Probably only about let's say 3 to 4 hours in total here. But if it was cooler, I would extend that longer, and then ball it up and go from there. So. Yep. So I'll see if I can get this here without it falling off all the bottom. So if you look here, it's underneath. It's nice and cooked. So that's how you want it. There's not a lot of flop there, which is good. It's got a little bit of weight in the center of all that cheese, so it is, you've got to fold it to eat it, but it's pretty good. So I'll leave the things open so I can see what everyone's saying. Yeah, just before, if there's any questions that are pending, what I've been working on this week is basically a downloadable PDF of all of my tips that I've just mentioned, but breaking it down into detail. So that's going to be available for download hopefully this week, middle of this week at the latest. I just got to add a couple extra things in there and then create that download link, and then I can publish that, so that way you can anyone can download that to use at their discretion. That's pretty much everything. Hope everybody enjoyed, learned something. I know it was a little bit of a repeat from last week, but yeah, I just really wanted to show how it's done in the TM6 like originally mentioned. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I hope that you are inspired to cook some pizza tonight. If you do, send it into the group so we can have a look. And I'll be editing this video, reposting it onto the YouTube channel, so anyone that isn't aware We've got a YouTube channel where we post all these videos first, and then we share them into the group. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that we do in there as well. But yeah, love for you to subscribe and join to that. And yeah, we'll see you on the next session, which I'll announce this week. Take care, guys. Thank you.